Okay, so Plato Symposium. All right, so before we get into Plato, actually, if you saw the recording, you saw what I talked about with the differences between the Hebrew, which we're leaving behind with the Song of Songs, and the Greek mindset, right? There are a number of differences. The main one that I want to highlight, and which we're going to see today very strongly in the text, is this notion of the Greek of dualism, right? This is an important contribution of Greek thought, right? The notion that there is a soul and there is a body. And the most important part is what? Based on what you heard in the introduction that I did, what's the highest part of ourselves, the body or the soul?
The soul.
Okay, very good, Brown, right? The soul is in Platonic thought. Remember, the body is the cave, the body is the corrupt part of ourselves, the body is the material part, the soul is the higher part of ourselves, the divine part of ourselves, right? So what really matters is the soul, right? And we're going to see today an emphasis, right, on the love of the soul, not just the love of the body. We're going to see this especially in the speech of Pausanias. But in the Song of Songs, we had a different vision, right? Was there a soul and a body there? What did we have? How is it different? What did the lovers love about each other? Remember to raise your hand when you answer so it doesn't create confusion in my mind. What did the lovers love? Brown, go ahead.
Their appearances.
Exactly. Now, notice the way you say mere appearances. You're talking like a Greek.
No, I said their appearances.
Okay, excellent. Had you said, like most people, mere appearances, right? This is showing me, right? It's not what you said, right? But many people would have said that, right? Just the appearance. They're just loving the body. That's all they're loving, right? But we saw in the Song of Songs, the body is where everything takes place. The body is where the soul becomes awakened. The body is where wisdom is found, right? Remember that it is in loving each other physically that they become wise, right? That the woman learns to let go, that the man learns to commit, right? They become more soulful by loving the body, right? So in the Hebrew concept, there's no distinction, right? As you love someone physically, as you experience them, as you grow together, you actually become more wise, more soulful, more loving, and so forth, right? So this is the main distinction. In Greek thought, you have this distinction. In Hebrew thought, they are one and the same, right? So let's go now into our text. I'm going to look at three of them. I'm going to look at Pausanias, then I'm going to look at Aristophanes, and then I'm going to look at Agathon. And I want you to pay attention as I'm teaching these three guys. There is actually a common denominator between them, okay? So I want you to find that as I'm talking. I'm gonna ask you at the end, what is the common thread? What is the common denominator? How do they all say actually the same thing? Even though they sound very different, there is actually a guiding thread that I'm gonna ask you at the end, okay? So are you ready? You're ready? Put your hand in the screen if you're ready to look for that common denominator. Okay, great. All right, so starting with Pausanias, here we have a very Greek description of love. There's actually two kinds of love. Can anyone tell me what these two kinds of love are? This is on page 13. So raise your hand and let me know what are the two kinds of love that he describes on page 13. Brown, it's just you and me apparently. Go ahead.
Spiritual love and common love.
Okay, very good. And when you love someone with this deep spiritual love, what kind of person are you loving, Brown?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
So when you love someone with a higher spiritual love, who are you loving? Who's the object of your love?
Really, God?
No. Not
He's the object of my...
No, wrong answer. Let's see. Leon, go ahead.
Yeah, someone posted in the chat, men, and
Okay,
specifically
good.
like, I suppose, virtuous men.
Yes,
in their own version.
Leon, what's your last name? Are you
Alper? Sorry.
Oh, you're Alper. Okay, gotcha. Okay, yes, right. When you're loving in the higher love, you're loving a man who is normally mature, older man, right? Well, I'm going to ask you why in a second, right? And when you're loving in a low, common way, who are you loving? Maybe Alper, you can answer.
Usually a woman or like someone a man who's like not very intelligent.
Okay, young man, right? Maybe he's intelligent, but he's not fully developed, right? So, okay, so tell me, why is it that the love of a older man is higher than the love of a woman or of a young boy? Why is that the case? Okay, Brown, you're already answering. Let's see if there's anyone else. Well, Brown, no, go ahead. Ah, I see another person. Hold on, Brown. Williams.
An older man is more wiser and fully developed, while a young person, you will have to teach him things. And I don't, yeah.
Okay, what about the woman? Why is it low to love her? I get the young boy, I get it. But the woman? What do you think?
I don't know.
All right, who can tell me why it's a low thing to love a woman? Let's see. Nobody dares answer. Williams, you still have your hand up. You want to try? No? Brown? And she's not a man. But no, but what's wrong? What's wrong with a woman? Ah, wait. Is that what you're saying? She's immature? Why is a woman immature?
No, I was saying immature for the previous question.
Okay.
About why don't we have the younger man, because he's immature, he's not fully developed.
Okay,
So
good.
in that stage.
All right, all right. So Nieves, can you help us with the woman? Nieves? You have to, go ahead.
Because women weren't really allowed out in like cultured society. Like they weren't allowed to like learn all like as much as a man could. So their intelligence level would have been the same as a young boy, at least in everyone's eyes.
Yeah, excellent, right? Absolutely, right? When you love an older man, their culture, they've evolved, they've been educated. So clearly, right, you are connecting to their mind, right? More than their body, obviously, because they're older. So they're not that great physically, but their mind, right? So sophisticated. So when you love a man, it actually, because you're clearly not loving the body, but their mind, that means you are in love in a higher way. You're in love with the mind, which is the higher part of the human being, rather than the body, which is the lower part of the human being, right? However, when you love a young man, what do you love? Well, clearly not his mind, right? Because he's not very sophisticated, he's stupid, he has nothing to say. So it's the body. So now you're brought down into the material realm, into the cave, right? Your love is of a lower sort. It's a material love. You're still in the lower regions of of life, of the world. And it's the same for a woman, right? Because okay, who were you? Start remembering you guys. Was it Nieves? Yes, right, as Nieves said, right, because a woman wasn't educated, she didn't have much, nothing sophisticated to say. She couldn't talk about literature, she couldn't talk about poetry, she couldn't talk about politics. What is there to talk about? Right? Nothing. So then clearly what you love is the body, and when you love the body, there you are back in the cave, right? Remember the story I told, right? Plato's allegory of the cave, where the lower part is the material realm, and we ought to strive to rise above our materiality and reach, right, the divine realm of our minds, right? Remember, for the Greeks, we are made of two parts, right? Part of us is material, corrupt, degenerate, dying, and the other part is immaterial, pure, divine, eternal, right? We're made of these two substances, right? So when you love an older man, you're attracted to that eternal part of our humanity. When you love a woman and a young boy, you're back into the corrupt, dying, mortal realm, right? Any questions? Alper, I think you had a question for a while.
Well, I mean, I feel like their opinions are probably, I wonder how old these guys were, basically. Like, I'm wondering if they were saying all this because they were old men and they wanted to provide the thought that, like, we're the real ones to go for, you know?
I'm sure this is going on, Alper. I'm sure this is going on. Yes, for sure, right? You have to advertise, market yourself. What am I going to do? Well, okay. And so, yes, absolutely. I'm sure there's some of that going on. I think Critchell has a nice sarcastic comment here. Does that spiritual love need to include sexual favors? yes, right. It's interesting that, yes, love me, I'm very lofty, and but you still have to, cater to my body here, right? So there's a contradiction, right? Critchell is noticing a contradiction in the text, which, by the way, in the end, when you read the whole thing, Socrates debunks this contradiction, right? Because I don't know how many of you read till the end of the text. Put your hand in the screen. Not yet? Okay. You'll see that Socrates actually, one of those guys is trying to get Socrates' attention, right? And Socrates, you'll see, is like, what? You want my wisdom for your sexual favors? You want to barter my gold for your copper or something like that? Basically saying, I'm not going to do this, right? We're not going to have this exchange, right? My wisdom is too costly to be exchanged for your favors, right? In fact, Socrates kind of, at least in this text, didn't have any partner, right? He didn't ascribe to this cultural thing of, bartering sex for wisdom, right? So Critchell, you're not the only one noticing this, and Socrates would be in agreement with you on this contradiction, right? Very good. Okay, so yes, but again, right, let's try and see what we can learn. Remember, the goal of this class is to try to get something from any text, right? No matter how remote these texts are from our culture or from our, values. So here we do have some excellent advice, right? Putting aside the sexism and the issue of bartering sex for wisdom. What can we learn here? What is the reason that we ought to love the soul and not just the body? Because that's really what is the teaching here, right? What is the reason that Pausanias gives us, right? That when we fall in love, whether it's, same-sex or heterosexual, why do we need to connect to the soul and not just to the body? Malone, go ahead.
He says that looks ultimately leave you, and a good character will not. A good character will always be a part of you.
Right,
The
excellent.
looks fade.
So this is just basic advice, right? When you fall in love, make sure it's not just the sexual chemistry. Make sure you also have intellectual chemistry or spiritual chemistry or emotional chemistry, because that part will last, right? The body will change, but the soul doesn't, right? Let me read the quote for you. Page 16. Turn with me to page 16, first paragraph. Are you there? Put your hand in the screen if you're there. Page 16. Okay. So I'm reading in the middle, right? A bad man. Who is there on a bad man? Okay, a couple of you. All right, so this is fourth line from the top of page 16. A bad man in this connection is the lover of the common type who loves the body rather than the mind. And because of that, he says he's not constant because he loves something that is not constant, right? Pausanias is telling us, make sure you're loving something in the person that will last, right? As soon as the bloom of the body fades, which is what attracted him, he flies away and is gone, bringing disgrace on all he said and promised, right? But, and this is the part to underline, the man who loves goodness of character is constant throughout his life, since he has become united with something constant, right? Okay, Alper, question, go ahead.
I was gonna just give a bit of an allegory in terms of it, like this aspect of constant versus non-constant. It's like an investment. Like you can buy a car, but the car will decrease in value over time, versus buy a house, the house tends to increase in value over time. So I would say for them, they're kind of pitching it as the same thing where, it's like, go for something that will increase in value rather than decrease.
I love it. Yes, beautiful example. Make sure you guys write this down. When you buy a car, it's going to decrease in value. When you buy a house, it's going to increase in value, hopefully. Right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to unite, you want to fall in love with the part of the person that will only increase in beauty, right? Not just with the part of the person that will decrease eventually. So that's the idea. Excellent. Very good summary. Okay, great advice from Pausanias. Okay. In spite of, as we were able to sift out the elements that were annoying or shocking or disturbing, right? There's a lot in the text that can be disturbing or simply annoying. So now let's go to Aristophanes. Remember, I'm asking you to find the common denominators. So let's see, we'll see whether they are alike or not. So Aristophanes actually talks about Alper. Thank you, Alper, for reading your comment. So Aristophanes gives us a beautiful story, right? He kind of starts with a kind of a fable, Can anyone summarize to me the story he tells about humanity, about love, about soulmates, right? Anybody summarize this story for me? It's a great occasion to show your face and be known. Let's see. Nobody wants to summarize the story he tells? I have to do this? Lucy? What's your last name, Lucy?
Rivera.
Rivera? Okay, great. Rivera, go ahead, tell us.
Okay, I didn't read all of it, so be nice.
I'll try.
So me and my group spoke. I represent 7. So to sum it up, I guess we think when it comes to love, it's kind of like knowledge versus like lust.
So you're with Posania still, I think. The love of the body versus the love of the mind, right? Knowledge versus lust. Are you still with Posanias, Rivera?
I'm sorry?
Are you still talking about Posanias? Because that sounds like Posanias when you say lust versus knowledge.
Yes.
Okay, yes, you're right? This is really the idea, right? You want to be intellectually connected, not just physically connected, right? Now, when we go to Aristophanes, right? Let me spell him in the chat so everybody see what I'm talking about. Aristophanes, what is the story he tells us, right? He tells us a story about love, about the beginning, how we used to be. He talks to us about the soulmate. Does anybody remember that story? Now I get to see. Okay, Williams, go ahead.
Oh wait, I think I was gonna answer it wrong, but I know he just talked about how we want to be our better selves for our soulmate, and that love is godlike.
Okay, good. So you're talking about part of his speech, right? But there's a whole story he talks about when we were united with our first half. Remember?
With Zeus?
Yes, Zeus. Go ahead. Tell us. Remind.
That we were once 2 people were one, so we had like 4 arms, 4 legs, something like that.
Yes.
And because we wreaked havoc in that state, Zeus separated us. So now we are looking for our other half around the world. And once we see each other, we're what's it called? Not cuddling. Embracing each other. And because of the lack of movement, you end up dying. And if that other person died, they will go and find another person that is exactly the same and do the same thing again.
Okay, good. Right? This is a kind of a story. I mean, we don't need to take it literally. It's a story that's telling us something about our deep nature, right? Basically, this is the story of the soulmate, right? This is the idea that all of us originally was bound to another human being, which is our other half, our special soulmate, right? And you know, a lot of us actually feel this, right? This is not something foreign to us. A lot of us feel like, oh, you know, I feel like part of me is missing. I feel like, where's my other half? I'm looking for this person who fits me, right? And so a lot of us, right, are on this quest for the soulmate. And so here in this text, for the first time, we're finally going to understand how to encounter the soulmate, right? Because if we have a soulmate, we shouldn't miss them, right? A lot of us, sadly, we go through life, we know we have a soulmate, and we go from relationship to relationship looking for a soulmate, wasting time, and it doesn't work out, it's not the one. And so the text actually is giving us a clue, which we're going to discover right now. It's going to give us a clue how to immediately identify the soulmate. This is very powerful advice, right? Once we know how to do this, we don't waste time. Right? We don't have to be like trying things out, right? We can see, boom, you're the one. Boom, you're not the one, right? So let's try and see these clues that the text is leaving us. So it's very subtle. I'm going to read parts of the book, and I want you to listen and see which idea comes up over and over again, right? What we're looking for is, what does the soulmate look like? Okay, so let me say that again, right? If it is indeed true that we all have a soulmate somewhere waiting for us, our other half, then the $1 million question is this: what does this soulmate look like? And our text is giving us a clue. Are you guys ready to know what your soulmate looks like? I see some of you really happy about this. Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna read. Just listen and see which idea comes up over and over again. And then you can tell me, what does the soulmate look like? And then we'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna read randomly from page 25 to 27. I'll skip around. Just listen to the common thread, right? All right. The soulmate. Those who are cut from the male gender go for males while they're boys. It's not out of shamelessness that they do this, but because they're bold, brave, masculine, and welcome the same qualities in others. They're always, in short, such people become lovers, always welcoming their shared natural character. Continuing on page 27. Each of us finds his loved one and restores his original nature. If this is the ideal, what comes closest to it must be the best. That is to find a loved one who naturally fits your own character, who is naturally close to us, who restores us to our original nature. This is the vision of the soulmate. Based on the passages I've been reading, what does the soulmate look like? You can put it in the chat or raise your hand. What does a soulmate look like? Alper, go ahead.
To me, it seems like he's saying the soulmate is just like you, like the same, like a mirror, basically, of yourself. And
excellent. Soulmate looks like you. And so the key is to know who you are before you can see the soulmate. Are you following me? If the soulmate is a reflection of you, you need to know what you look like before you can identify the soulmate. And so if I were to develop a little bit, what he's saying here is that basically know yourself. Before you can ever find your true love in this world, you have to have a strong sense of who you are. You have to have built yourself. You have to have developed yourself. You have to know yourself, know your name, know your identity, know your calling. Then you will be able to identify your soulmate. This is so important, right? Because basically what this is telling us is that if you're single right now, this is the perfect moment to prepare for your soulmate. Why? Because this is the moment where you have time to build yourself, right? Become the highest version of yourself, because then you will meet the highest version of your soulmate. We attract who we are. That's what the text is saying here. Let me say that again. We attract who we are. Right? So if you're in a crazy relationship right now, don't blame the other anymore. Look at yourself. The other is simply mirroring you. Right? Very often we're in a terrible relationship and all our friends are like, oh yeah, dump him or dump her. They're not for you. Actually, they are. They're simply the perfect reflection of where you are right now in life. And if you want something better, become better. Let me write this in the chat because this is so important. If you want something better, become better. You attract who you are. This is and if you want to attract someone amazing, become someone amazing, right? If you want to attract someone below average, stay below average, right? That's the idea. So I have a friend right now. She's not doing anything with her life. She's just sitting around. She hasn't figured out where she's going. She doesn't know, like she's lost kind of touch with herself, right? But she has a really long list of the kind of man she wants, right? He has to make money. He has to be handsome. He has to be this tall. He has to be kind and intelligent and funny and, make this much money. Do you think in her state, she's going to attract this guy? I don't think so. Right? In other words, we have these long, elaborate lists of the kind of person we want to be with, but who are we, right? The best way, what this text is really saying, right, is the best way to attract this amazing person, which is your soulmate, is to become an amazing person. That's why being single is such an important step to being with someone, because while you're single, you can build yourself as high as you can, right? And then when you can find who you are, you can find your calling, you can find your name, you can find your identity, you can fine tune your values. Once you're at the highest level, then you will naturally attract the highest level, right? But if you're in a shitty relationship, look no further than yourself. This is simply a reflection of who you are. Now, it doesn't mean that you're exactly the same, but you're attracting that because you're somewhere on the same level. In New Age terms, you're on the same frequency. Everybody understands this language of frequency? You attract your frequency. If you're at a low frequency, you can be a really nice person and they're super abusive, but you're still on the same frequency because you got issues. So that's the idea. The frequency you're on is a frequency you're going to attract, even though it manifests differently, right? So you want to raise your vibration. That's what the text is saying. Raise your vibration so you can attract what you deserve, right? Alper, go ahead.
I think an extension of that is also, he says about knowing yourself. And I remember there's this movie I saw called Perks of Being a Wallflower. And in it, the main character says, like, I don't understand why some of the best people I know are with some of the worst people I know. And then someone tells him, we accept the love that we think we deserve. Yeah. And like, I think in this, it's also like, you also got to know your worth in order to understand, like, is this person too low for me almost, Or is this actually what I deserve? And the reason I'm with someone like this is because this is what I am actually,
Very good, right? You can be a really nice person and be with a horrible person, but it's really because you're a nice person, but you don't know who you are, right? So that's the thing, right? It's not just being mean. It can be simply being insecure, not knowing who you are, not knowing where you're going. All of this is low frequency, right? So the key we say this a lot, right? You have to learn to love yourself before you can love another or be loved by another, right? You have to be capable of being happy alone, basically, before you can be happy together. But this is such a three penny advice, right? 3-cent advice, but it's good advice, right? Unless, I'll write it down, you're happy alone, right? You can't be happy with someone, right? That's the idea too, right? Learn to be happy by yourself. Learn to be rich, wealthy by yourself. Then you will attract someone who is also rich and wealthy by themselves, right? Safin, go ahead.
So I was just processing the whole thing, right? I mean, for me, it was different because, so I've been with my girlfriend for like 8 years, since like middle school. But when I was in middle school, I was sort of like a fuckboy, right? And yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, but
already in middle school, you start very young.
yeah, but so at that time, I wouldn't say I was good looking, but my girlfriend was like pretty good looking, right? So I'm talking about 8th grade. So 8th grade, we started dating, and then like you said, it should be someone like at your level, at like where you at in your life. I feel like at that time I was like at a very shitty level of my life, but she wasn't. Like at that time we were completely opposite, but throughout high school we kind of connected, like it matched out. Like now we're like almost the same person. So could it be like you could also attract someone opposite, but over time it like slowly becomes one?
Yeah, so I love what you say, because the Greek view, right, is very kind of like you attract who you deserve, right? And you're talking about grace, basically, right? Sometimes you're gifted with someone whom you don't deserve, right? And then you have to grow and become worthy of that person, right? Perhaps in the Song of Songs, we have that story, right? In the man was a fuckboy, right?
Yeah.
And the woman is kind of, really very pure and faithful. And in a way, he attracted what he didn't deserve, and yet he rose to the occasion. So that's the Hebrew view. So your story connects more with the Hebrew view, right, than this Greek view. Well, you attract what you deserve, right? So beautiful. Thank you, Safin. Absolutely, right? We are sometimes gifted, right, with someone we don't deserve, who is on a higher frequency. But then for it to last, you have to raise your vibration. You have to reach that level, which is what you did, Safin. So congratulations on your 8-year relationship.
Thank you. Marriage coming soon.
Yes, awesome. Tell us about it. We want to be invited. Brown, go ahead.
But I think they talk about what Sadi said, if I'm saying your name right, Sazid. I think that's what they were saying in the book, that, the little boys shouldn't go so young. They should like kind of wait, because they're not mature. They're not in that mature state to have a one-on-one, that type of serious relationship. You know what I mean? Because they have their growing to do.
Exactly, right? So the Greeks are usually very smart about it, right? So they will tell you, here's the smart thing to do. Be older, date someone you like intellectually, you will attract who you are. But what's beautiful about Safin's story, right, is that he's telling us, he's showing us how the Hebraic view, right, where they're, if you heard the second lecture, right, that I put on YouTube, they're so immature, both of them, and yet they grow together, right, which is what Safin is talking about. You can also jump in a complete chaos, right? Not ready, not mature, not on the same level, and it can still work out, right? So this is the Hebraic view, is much more of a risk-taking, much more of a grace-filled, right, view than the Greek, who's like, you need to do this and this and this, and then it will work. The Hebrews are like, just go for it and do your best, right? And just, you know, grow and mature together, right? The Greeks imply you have to be first mature, and then you'll be good. The Hebrews say you can't become mature by yourself. You need the other person to mature you. So jump in, don't be afraid, go for it. You see the difference? Are you guys seeing the difference between the two worldviews? Put your hand in the screen, right? Write this down, because this is great. You have two paths, right? You have the path of the Greek, which is the wise, you know, prudent path, says first be mature, grow, be happy by yourself, make sure you love the mind, then it's going to work out, right? The Hebrews are like, you can't grow by yourself, right? Make sure you write this down. You can't mature by yourself. Just go for it and, you know, do the work, do the labor of love that is needed to mature together, which is what Safin, right, is mentioning to us, is what he did, right? Let's see, Williams says, yeah, so absolutely, Williams. You want to elaborate on that, Williams? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, yeah, what's I don't know his name wrong. Sazid is like what he did is admirable, but I think everyone does go through that phase where they are changed for that person, but it depends on the person. Like, if you don't really like that person, of course you're not gonna change for that person. But say if that person does a lot for you, and now you think and grow up and think like, okay, maybe I need to do the same for her, and that was make you change. It's just your own, that person action make you change yourself, because a person can't make you change. It's just how you want to go about it and think about it.
Yeah, very good, right? You say in the chat this beautiful idea that people bring it out of ourselves, right? Certain people can really raise us up, right? And I think Safin, your girlfriend, she had this ability to raise you up, right? To awaken that part of you, right? So beautiful, right? Now you're really seeing clearly, right, the difference between the Greeks and the Hebrews, and both is good advice. You decide which path you pick, right? Do you want to pick the Greek path of prudence and being careful and making sure? This is good advice too. But then the Hebrew will be like, well, it can also work by just jumping in and then just trying to swim, right? And growing together in a way. Excellent, nice, very nice discussion. I enjoyed it. Usually this text is a little boring for me, but today it's not. So yeah, I teach boring text sometimes. So, okay, let's go to the last one, Agathon. So Agathon, page 29. Yeah. So Agathon, remember who he is, right? Agathon is actually one of those young boys that we've been talking about, right? He's one of those teenagers that is, but he happens to be very wealthy. So he's the one hosting the party. And of course, Agathon is looking to get laid, obviously, right? He's looking for one of these mentors. So he's there, he's trying to, you know, make a good impression. And it's interesting because they invite him to be part of the discussion, which is risky, right? Because as a young boy, normally he has nothing to say. But he accepts, which was a mistake, right? We see that in the way that he speaks and in the way that later on Socrates destroys him, right? It was a very big mistake to accept. He should have said, no, you guys go ahead, talk, I'll listen, right? No, he accepts. And he comes up with this speech, which is one of the biggest blunders in the history of Platonic writings, right? So I want you to catch the blunder. I'm gonna read sections of his speech, listen carefully and tell me where he's making mistake after mistake, blunder after blunder. Here we begin on the top of page 29. Are you all with me on the top of page 29? Put your hand in the screen, okay. All right, so he begins, I claim First mistake. Right? Who are you to claim anything? Right? What do you know? Nothing. Right? Why you claim? At least you could argue or you could, observe. No, you claim. All right. So this sets the tone, right? We already see Agathon is like a peacock, right? Or like a rooster, kind of, walking around with his feathers. Right? I claim. So he continues. And you'll see how offensive actually his speech really is. So he begins, he says, love is the happiest because it is the most beautiful and best. And it's the most beautiful. Why? Because it's the youngest. Already you should sense he's headed up, down the pit, down the abyss. What do you call it? The thing when the ledge. He's about to jump off. Youngest of the gods. He continues. He himself provides good evidence by fleeing headlong from old age. Notice how different he sounds from Pausanias, right? Continuing, love naturally hates old age and keeps distance from it. He always associates with the young and is one of them. Why? Of course, because the young are the ones who are beautiful, right? Okay, how did he just destroy himself with this speech? Tell me. If you know already what the others think about love, like Pausanias, right? What is Pausanias thinking right now? What is the huge mistake he said? Okay, so Hat is saying, he said the young are the beautiful. Yeah, what's wrong with that? What is he showing about himself by saying, love is young, love is beautiful?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that, I don't know, I forgot in whose speech that I saw this in, but I think after he wrote after he said what he had to say, somebody was like, oh, like you think you're so smart? Like love isn't about like outward beauty. It's like you can't just say somebody young is beautiful. You could be young and then be like a complete, like, he kind of like categorized it and he made beautiful like about the looks, but like you said, it has to be soul, it has to be the body too, but the soul too.
Exactly.
And he was basically just implying that only young people have that, and if you're older, like, oh, that's it, if you didn't find love until now, you'll never find it. But
exactly. Agathon is bringing us back to the body. We have just finished talking about how it's important to love the soul because that's what endures and the body dies. And Agathon is like, no, actually love is just the body, right? Because the body is beautiful. Where is Agathon? Like, what does this tell you about Agathon? I think Alper, you're talking about how he cannot read the room. What is he not reading? How is he showing his complete, utter ignorance? Alper, would you like to elaborate on what you said?
Well, I mean, first off, just everyone before him went in a completely opposite direction. So the very fact that his choice of words is like it's like he wasn't listening. It's like he just wasn't listening to anything anyone said before.
Excellent.
And yeah, anyways, that's what I was referring to.
Very good, very good. Nieves, do you want to add? Nieves?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just thinking that he was talking about how all the young are beautiful in a room full of people older than him.
Yes, right? Everybody is older and he's like, oh, love just loves the young, right? Basically what he's saying is, love me, right? Me, young and beautiful, that's where love should go, to me, right? So you have a kind of the perfect narcissist, right? Here in the center of the room. Hasn't listened to anybody, doesn't know what has been said, and especially this, doesn't know how deeply entrenched in the cave he still is, right? Agathon is deep in the cave. Everything he says is about the material. There's no sense of this higher level of loving. He is displaying his ignorance, his immaturity, in addition to being offensive and not reading the room, right? So really a speech of someone who has little interest in others, right? Or what they said, right? This is someone who's basically saying, if you want to find love, just love me. I am young, I am beautiful. Here I am, your host. You don't need to look any further. Look no further, right? So very deeply narcissistic, some of you mentioned egotistic, right? This is where Agathon is, right? There's only him in the room. There's nothing else. Basically what he's saying, right? Love is about finding love, right? What I'm looking for in love is to be loved, right? So, I mean, in a way, we all have a little bit of agathon in us, right? All of us, in a way, are looking for love to be loved, right? But it can't just be that, right? But agathon is clearly saying, right? Love is just love me. For me, love is being loved. Okay, now, are you ready? Did you find the common denominator? There is something crucial missing from each one of these three speeches. Same thing. Some dimension is missing, is not spoken of. Which one is it? Can anyone find it? Okay, Alper, courageous first person.
I would say how you're supposed to treat someone you're in love with.
Okay, yes, you're on the right track. There's all about how I can find love and how I should find love and what I should do to make sure I have the right type of love. But nothing is being said about how I might treat the other. So we're on the right track. Very good. Williams, continue.
I was basically saying the same things, how to sustain that love, to how to, like, as soon as you obtain it, what do you do now? Like that type of thing.
Yes, good. That's true. There's no advice. Well, at least Posania said, actually, if you fall in love with the right part, it's going to sustain itself. Right? But there's not much really, you're right, on the labor of love, right? On what you need, how the art, right? The craft of love. What do you do now with it, right? Very good. Anybody else want to try to see what's missing or what they're lacking, what they haven't spoken of? Okay, good. So yes, let me go back to what Alper and Williams said, right? The thing that's missing is the dimension of the other, right? These speeches are all focused on how I can find love, right? Posanias, make sure you fall in love with the right part of the person, with the right person. Don't fall in love with this type, just fall in love with that type, right? So that you can be elevated by love, right? It's all about you. Right? Posanias is only thinking how he might get a good deal. Right? Make sure you pick the right person so you have a good deal. Aristophanes, make sure you pick someone like you. Shared values, shared characteristics, similar tastes, similar this, right? We didn't talk about this, but that's also what he's saying, right? Be smart. Pick someone who's like you. Don't pick someone who's completely different. Try to pick someone, your own culture, your own religion. Try to pick someone, right, who has the same values, somebody who, again, no room for someone to be different, right? To be completely other. Has to be the same. And Agathon, of course, pick me, right? Zero sense of the other. Are you following how this dimension is missing? Put your hand on the screen if you're with me. Right? It is all about how the self might find love and might find happiness. There is nothing said or spoken about how we can help make the other happy or grant love to the other. How do I love the other? How do I make the other happy? Nothing. It's all about calculating how to best fall in love so that I end up happy, right? Really good advice, by the way. I don't want to discredit them, right? This is excellent advice. If you want to be happy, follow that advice, right? Pick someone who elevates you. Pick someone who has shared characteristics, right? Make sure they love you, right? These are all really good advice, but love is not just about making the right choice, right? Or picking the right pick. Love is also about the labor you put in for the sake of the other also, right? And so the dimension of the other is completely missing in these speeches, right? There's nothing said about how can I love you? How can I make you happy, right? It's all about how I can make the right decision so I end up happy in love, right? Great advice, by the way. I still don't want to discredit it. Okay, any questions? Williams, is that still a question or is that from before? Williams?
I keep forgetting.
Okay, great. All right, any questions, any comments? Okay, when we do Diotima next time, this is going to be our fourth speaker, we will see a shift in the direction of the discourse, right? As much as these three speeches were focused on the self and how the self can find happiness in love, right? That other speech will be about opening up to the dimension of the other, right? We're going to see a shift. But for now, make sure you write this down, right? That the 3 speeches are the same in a way, because they're all about how the self can find happiness in love. What to do, what is the strategy that the self has to adopt in order to find love that makes the self happy, right? So let me write down again. Let me tell you again some elements of the strategies. Great advice. I don't want to take it off, right? Number 1, Pausanias tells us, if you want to be happy in love, pick someone that elevates you intellectually and spiritually. Make the right choice, right? Aristophanes, pick someone like you. Pick someone who has same values, if possible, same religion, same culture, same education level, same social class. You'll be happier. It's true. Right? It's true. If you pick someone too different, it's going to be, doesn't mean it's not possible, because we saw in the Song of Songs, 2 different cultures, 2 different religions, 2 different social classes, and yet they worked out. So in the Hebrew context, everything is possible, right? In the Greek, where they're more rational, they're like, right? Be smart about it. And then Agathon, right? Pick someone who loves you, right? Great advice, right? But again, what's missing is, what about you? What's your part? What are you going to do for the other? And what happens? And this is crucial. What happens when the other person doesn't elevate you? At times, right? What happens when the relationship hits the rocks and the other person now is bringing you down? What happens? Do you leave? Right? What do you do now? What happens if the other turns out to be more different than you thought? What happens if the other starts to clash with you? Right? Does that mean they're the wrong person? Right? What happens when the other, it feels like they don't love you anymore? Does that mean you are not meant for each other? Are you seeing? These are questions that will arise in your minds at any point. There will be that moment where you will ask yourself, this person is bringing me down. This person is clashing with me, and I'm not even sure this person loves me anymore. Does this mean now that you have made the wrong choice, right? Now we know from the Song of Songs that difficulty doesn't mean incompatibility, right? The fact that it's difficult and laborious doesn't mean you were not meant for each other, right? So we know that from the Song of Songs, but in the Greek context, this is missing, right? It's too clean cut. It has to fit. If it doesn't fit, it's not the right person. A lot of us think like that. At the first sign of trouble, they're not the one for me, right? At the first sign of a clash, too different, it's not gonna work. First sign they're pulling you down, this is not the one, right? This is what's missing in the Greek, right? This idea that as soon as there is the moment of differentiation, where the other is not catering to the self, we feel it's the moment to leave, right? And this is the problem, right? Because there will never be a person who fits within these categories of always elevating you, always the same, always loving. Doesn't exist. Put it out of your mind, right? And the Greek text is not giving us the tools to navigate when these problems occur. That's what's missing, except Diotima. Diotima is going to lead us in a different place. Any questions on what I said? Was it too complicated? I feel like I got really complicated just now.
Professor, I'm
yes.
gonna make the speech.
Thank you, Hat. Okay, excellent. Any other questions before I make my speech? Sorry, what?
Nothing. I said speech. That was just funny to me. I didn't mean to say speech.
Yes, my speech. Yes, I would like to be part of the symposium. Okay, great. Okay, I'm going to talk to you briefly about the final project. You're ready now to start it. Final project is basically it's a continuation of what we did in the Song of Songs. So if you enjoyed the Song of Songs, you're going to love this project, right? This project is you're going to read one of my works. So this is my discourse. You're going to read something that I wrote on the Song of Songs, which in fact summarizes everything that we are going to be studying in the class. I wrote this book actually under the inspiration of teaching this class. So a lot of what I write in the book, I bring up. A lot of what the authors that I bring up are authors we're going to be studying, right? So it's really kind of a culmination of the teaching you will get in this class. So final project is you read the book, and your assignment is very easy. You write me a review on Amazon. How does this sound? Very good. I see you're smiling. Good response.
Perfect to me.
Sounds good, right? The book is very cheap now. It used to be more expensive. I couldn't do this. Now you can get it for 10 bucks on Kindle. So you can start reading it now based on what we did on the Song of Songs, or you can wait towards the end of the semester, because in the book I will be quoting Kierkegaard, Buber, Kant, all the people we're going to study, I'll be quoting in that book. So if you wait till the end, you'll have a lot more background, but you can start now. You start, you read, and you do the review, and you are done with the final project. Now, I will be doing towards the end of the semester a workshop for women only based on this book. The ladies of the class are invited, and the men will have access to the recording. So this you don't have to do, but you'll get extra credit if you do. So if you want extra credit, ladies, I'll tell you the dates if you can make it, right? I'll be doing a workshop much more detailed, go much more in depth in this book. And
wait, can the guys get extra credit on this too?
I know you guys should get extra credit somehow too, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's a misandry up in this.
It's not nice. I know. Meron, maybe I will have you listen to the workshops. You can watch it and give me a review on the, or not a review, but give me an evaluation for me.
Gotcha.
Maybe I'll have the guys have access to the recordings. I just want it to be kind of a private setting so we can really go deeply. But I do want the recording to be available. It will be on the YouTube, on our channel. And then maybe if the guys want extra credit, you can listen and then give me some feedback on how I can do better on this. Okay, great. But you still can read the book, absolutely. And this is the final project. All right, any questions? Great. All right, guys, I will see you next week. Oh, the book, yes. The book is it's normally in the QC bookstore, at least advertised. It's called Womanist Wisdom in the Song of Songs. So you can get it on Amazon. And you'll see, it's a very similar approach to what we did already. You already have a good background, what we did in class. It's a very similar approach, and I think you'll enjoy it. Great, okay. Let me stop the recording.